I also think that your work is extremely beautiful and will be extremely.
And that's not a negative.
It'll be. No.
Don't you think sometimes that's like a taboo? Shouldn't be
Well,
beautiful. I feel that way anyway.
No, when I say beautiful, I not really in a classic sense, but kind of your work is rusticated and like an antiquity because by leaving it outdoors,
Right.
it deteriorates and it becomes a kind of a folk art, found art combination. But your drawing is terrific and your line work is great. And how did you doing those? I love the high energy things because you must be doing wood prints that are enormous. Mm-hmm. I love printing. I like the fact that you stand on the things to what is it? Burnish them.
Burnish it,
you burnish with slippers or sneaker socks. Okay.
I found that by accident, out of total laziness. I'm really messy, and I walked across one of my prints, and I noticed that was the only area that printed well. And I was like, okay, that'll work.
Yeah. Well, I like the progression of your work. Taking it to the streets was extremely good.
Yeah, I mean, I was like. I think that a lot of that had to do with that I was a real small town kid in a big way. Like, I grew up like really on the outskirts of just a cultural wasteland of a town, like before the internet. Do you know what I mean? Like, you really, there was like one bookstore and like Research Magazine was kind of the only thing you know what I mean? Like, there was not much. And so... What?
You're in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, you know? And so I show up in New York, and it was like this kind of arc of like kind of being a believer and being disillusioned was like really steep. And so it was like I had to kind of cross through all of this, like, just all of these different feelings about what it meant to make art and what it meant to, to really, to want to make something which in some ways was really archaic, I wanted, my kind of, the first mark that I make is drawing portraits. That's sort of like where I begin. And so how to like make that something which is relevant to the world that I live in.
Right.
All those questions which seemed a little bit impossible from where I was at the canvas. And being kind of like an angry kid. And so...
what were you angry about?
Kids are angry. Teenagers are angry. I don't know.
Okay.
No, I mean, just that feeling of loving something, feeling so emotionally and intellectually and in all ways invested in life as an artist, but feeling so otherwise alienated from the avenues that I saw available to me.
Right.
And just feeling like the main thing that I needed to do was to make my own path. And I feel like that's like the whole, it's a process that I keep going through, kind of going back out and coming back in and going out and coming back in. And it's like only once I have made a path which feels like I made it myself, it has a life of its own, there's a world for it that doesn't exist in this kind of coddled institutional setting, I can then kind of come back and play with institutions a little bit. And be like, okay, I can do this, but it feels always important to me that it has to be in the world first.
You immediately confronted the problem of breaking down the barrier between life and art, and we're trying to present it in a public context for everyone.
And trying to make something that disintegrated as an object, and all of these, all the different things.
Yeah, you're way ahead on the dematerialized object because if you leave it out for very long, it's gone. And so
guaranteed gone, unless somebody takes it. That's something.
Do you document them over their deterioration?
I tend to be less good at it because I'm traveling so much now. But that's always been the idea.
Do you have a documentary unit? Do you have somebody?
I do not. I have one amazing photographer that I work with named Todd Seeley who photographed Venice and who's photographed the Rockaway. And but I tend to work with, he just is part of our life as artists, and so he's on the projects. But
I could provide you names with photographers who just follow you around everywhere.
Right, great, because I'm really bad at that.
And because they love stuff like that.
Right,
I mean, if they had followed Jean-Michel around, there would be a lot better photographs.
Right.
So, I think you should have a documentary unit on you because you just throw off so much work.
Yeah, and
You don't have time to worry about documenting it.
This is really ridiculous, but my sense of direction is actually like kind of sort of like really subpar. And
You got lost in the Adriatic?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just a pool. I couldn't. No, and so if I go to a new town, I literally don't remember where I went. You know, I'll go out riding around and putting up stuff, and later people are like, "Great, where did you go?" And I'm like, F if I know.
We need to put a GPS locator in your bag so that we can follow you around on the internet.
So I can find myself.
That would be good. Yeah, because you probably don't know where your pieces are.
No, have no idea at all.
Because you're always busy making them.
Busy making them, busy just the whole process.
Doesn't it take a long? Is wood cutting and linoleum cutting?
Weeks. It takes weeks of carving. The project that I have coming up is I own a church outside of Pittsburgh.
Nice.
In a small town called Braddock, Pennsylvania. And I'm working with a group called Transformasium. That's some old friends of mine who we started this project together, kind of centered around trying to create something in this town that's experienced a lot of loss. Lost 80% of its population, lost most of its jobs, lost tons of its architecture. And just trying to figure out, what are the ways that we interact with this kind of post-industrial collapse and with the unsustainability of our, living systems,
right.
and how do we kind of like recreate things in a way that fits our lives and
Well,
make them beautiful.
This is the essential question of our age: is
Right.
how do we transition to the next stage,
Exactly.
which could be okay, or it could be extremely ugly.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking about that.
Exactly.
Do you have any ideas?
To be perfectly honest, my idea is to learn through this project, and that's how it is with each project.
How big a church is it?
It's a huge church. It's a steel infrastructure, and it's just an old, huge, like 150 years old kind of church. And we have a lot that we want to make a garden, and I'm hoping to create some kind of a power generating playground, which is the sort of project that I'm not qualified to do, but which I am excited to draw in people who are and sort of like create a laboratory for that.
Well, I would be interested in applying philosophy and poetry to state that most philosophy, like religion, stems from disappointment, and that the way you get past the problem that there might not be a God and personal responsibility is to figure out how you can be inspired by your own work and small gestures, so that you have a spiritual life in the absence of a supreme being or something. So if you would like someone to come down and be a pastor for a month and give sermons on how you can be in a religion that doesn't believe in God, I'm willing to do it.
That'll be part of our residency program.
Yeah, I would love that. It would be fun.
You're invited.